You found it. Your home for the best content on your favorite team, the Fighting Tigers of LSU. Do us a favor. Subscribe to the channel. Leave your comments below. Be sure to smash that like button. It is LSU Bama week on Monday. The respective head coaches started the week by expressing general niceties toward each other. First, Brian Kelly on Nick Saban.
You know, certainly what's to say about Alabama other than consistency, excellence, arguably the greatest head coach in college football history. And Nick Saban, I have a great deal of respect for Nick and what he's accomplished and what he's done for college football.
And Nick Saban returned the niceties as well.
Well, they're always very well coached. They're always physical. This will be a physical game. They always have balance on offense. They're going to run the ball. They've got a very good throwing scheme. Utilize the personnel that they have, very, very well. And, they've historically played really well on defense and special teams. So it's typical of what a well-coached team, usually does. And they've gotten to the point where, and all of his teams have been this way, they don't beat themselves. You got to execute and beat them, and I think that's got to be the focus, for our team.
This is not new for Brian Kelly facing Nick Saban. The 2013 BCS National Championship game, his team got blown out by Alabama. And then in the college football playoff, they met in the semifinals and took a stomp in there again. So Brian Kelly was asked about his previous matchups against Nick Saban.
They were extremely talented teams. The 13 team was as physical as a football team that I've ever played against and have not played a team as physical. And then if you look at the perimeter skill that they had in, I think that was 19, it was amazing. So, two different teams, but, just fabulous players on both sides of the ball.
That's not going to be any different this weekend. Alabama's still going to have a ton of great players, and that's the challenge that Brian Kelly's going to have this year and moving forward for as long as Nick's at Alabama, is trying to match that talent and then outcoach them. There's been a lot of years where, you can look at LSU and Alabama, and even this year, the top two teams with NFL talent, LSU and Alabama, LSU. This game produces more NFL talent than any rivalry in the country that's played annually. And the shortcoming for LSU in years past has been coaching. It was Nick Saban against Les Miles. That was not a fair fight. And it took an NFL roster that LSU had in 2019 to go to Tuscaloosa and win. How does that start to normalize? Well, the hope is Brian Kelly matches them with talent and then obviously matches in coaching as well. So this is an interesting week, and LSU's coming off the bye. First, a couple of injury updates. Brian Kelly first on Major Burns. This is number 7 update on Major Burns.
So Major Burns is cleared to participate, so he'll be out at practice today. So he, as you can imagine, will be in our game plan, and we expect him to play and be an important part of what we do.
I think that's significant. As important as Joe Fouché has been in weeks past, and I think Joe Fouché will be a huge factor against Arkansas next week, by the way. As much as they run the ball with KJ Jefferson, you want that big physical box safety who can play the box. Now, Major Burns isn't afraid of contact, but Major Burns is probably better in coverage. I think they're going to need that this week against Alabama. Also, an update on Garrett Dellinger, the left guard.
Garrett Dellinger is day-to-day. He had a good weekend. He was here this weekend. As you can imagine, that's a little bit different because he's got to be able to take a load on that knee. And, when you're coming back from a knee injury, it's easier to obviously not have to worry about running and cutting, but you've got to be able to take the load, and that's what we're working on right now. We think we're going to get him there, but it's still a process because now we're going to add practice onto it. And so we got to see how he responds each day after practice. We had people leaning on him individually over the weekend. Now we're going to be leaning on him for a full practice, and we'll see how it goes. But he's making good progress.
That was interesting. He was talking about literally having people lean on him to see if his knee could support the weight. Now you have to go do football actions. Garrett Dellinger, when healthy, is one of your best 5. I don't think anybody would argue. And outside of the 2 freshmen, he's probably your best lineman. Now, Campbell and Jones are going to get there and are going to be awesome and special. Maybe already are. But Dellinger is one of your best 5 when healthy. The question is, if he's not healthy, is a healthy Miles Frazier a better option? And that may be the answer. And the last 2 games, Frazier filling in for Dellinger at left guard has looked really good. That unit has looked really good. So I don't know necessarily that you're in a bad spot there either way. Also, an update on Jack Besh and John Emery going into this week.
Both positive. They'll both practice today. I'm certain Jack will practice. I didn't get a report from our training room on Emery, but I did get a report before I got in here on Jack, and he is much improved, and he was cleared to get out on the practice field today.
It will be interesting to see what role Jack may fill provided he plays. He had been your returner. Noah Kane returned kickoffs with Jack out. And Gregory Clayton, although LSU didn't have to return a punt last week, Gregory Clayton would theoretically be that guy. When Jack got hurt, Clayton was the one who replaced him. As far as John Emery's dynamic, and I think I've said this enough throughout the course of the year, but I don't know that I'm expecting the game where John Emery has 18 carries for $162. What I'm expecting from John Emery when he's available is, can you get the ball to John 8 to 10 times, and in 1 or 2 of those touches, he busts a 25, 30-yarder that flips the field? Or maybe he rips off the 60-yard run, right? Like the big play that's going to flip the field or change the scoreboard. He did that against Florida. Florida, I think, is the best example of that. He got in the end zone twice. He threw him a little screen pass. He made a dude miss, whoop, into the end zone on the left sideline. Like, that's what John Emery brings you. Maybe because he missed so much time and they bring him along slowly, and you had other guys, and Goodwin's now healthy. I don't know that you're going to see, even if Emery is healthy, that big workload. But the dynamic playmaker, can he be the guy that provides the play, that's the spark, that flips the score, flips the field, leads to a score, that sort of thing? You'd love to have him for the Bama game. But boy, Armani Goodwin certainly looked explosive coming back against Ole Miss. And with another week off with the bye, you'd think he could be even better against Alabama, which would be great to see. One question I know that everybody's going to wonder about is at linebacker and what the plan is there, and in particular this week where you have Bryce Young, who is so dynamic. I thought Texas did a masterful job against Bryce Young earlier this year, but how they were able to contain him from not beating him with his legs. Now, of course, moving in the pocket, he was able to extend plays, and his receivers let him down, but a big part of that is linebacker talent. So Brian Kelly was asked, and you all know what name you're listening for, but here was Brian Kelly on the linebackers.
Well, I think it's important that the best players play, and I think we've seen consistently who those players are. Micah Baskerville's been playing, really good football for us. Obviously we want to get Ojulari on the field and Perkins. Those guys are making plays and have had, for us, high production. So not that Greg has not, and certainly has done a really nice job for us as well, but those are your high production guys. And so when you're playing a team like Alabama, if you know what you're doing at all, you better get your best players on the field.
Baskerville leads LSU with 49 tackles. Greg, who Brian Kelly alluded to there, was Greg Penn, who wasn't one of the top 3 he mentioned. He mentioned Baskerville, Ojulari, Perkins, right? Greg Penn second on your team in tackles at 38. By the way, Harold Perkins is third at 36. So just consider the disparity in snaps, where Penn has been a starter all year. Perkins has been more of a role player, and in the last 2 games, you've seen the workload dramatically increase, really against Auburn, but then you saw it step back against Tennessee, as we all were, to the chagrin of many of us, you saw it elevate again against Florida and then against Ole Miss. Despite having fewer reps, the production is exceeding many of the guys who have been on the field a lot. You can't justify at this point having Harold Perkins on the sideline. You just can't. He's too dynamic, and in this game in particular, even if Perkins' sole role is spy 9, just do not let Bryce Young annihilate this defense, then that's the role he plays, and that would be awesome. And maybe he even provides some of those game-changing plays. So that is going to be music to a lot of LSU fans' ears, the way they're planning on handling this. So LSU just getting started here. They're on the practice field today on Monday, getting ready for Bama week, as they're about as healthy as they've been all year and playing with a ton of confidence right now. And got an Alabama team coming in that has a lot to play for, but really no margin for error. And a team that certainly has dominated the series over the last decade. But it feels very much like a different game now. The fear with Alabama, and I use that term loosely, was you could never score. I mean, from the game that LSU won in 2010 until 2019, the most points LSU scored in that game was 17. So, man, to play a game where you feel like you can move the ball and you can score and you can put points on the board and you can hurt their defense, which because they were so dominant on the defensive front for so many years and stylistically what LSU did, it wasn't conducive to moving the ball. It feels like LSU is going to be able to score. I'm not telling you they're going to score 52 like Tennessee did, but you may not have to either. But feels like we're in for what should be a competitive game, one that's going to be far more competitive than many, including yours truly, thought when the season started. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.